Elizabeth Amadeo please come forward. As Leo Amadeo put it, near the site of the old number 6 Donkin Colliery, the game was played. On school days, they played from the time they got out till dark. Some 14 years ago, did make it to the expanded NHL with the Los Angeles Kings, and Leo and Neil came within a hair's breadth of making it in the 6-team circuit, proved they were At 15, he played for the Glace Bay Junior Miners. On an exhibition tour in Newfoundland, a scout signed him for a tryout in the Quebec Junior Hockey League. He played Junior A for the Quebec Citadels and the Quebec Frontenacs, during which time he played with and against such stars as Henri Richard, Phil Goyette, Bob Pulford, Camille Henry, and Glace Bay native Eddie Schwartzak. In '55, he turned pro with the Montreal Royals in the now defunct Quebec Hockey League. He went on to be a league all-star defenseman at Shawinigan Falls as his team took the Quebec title. He also played for Spokane and Victoria in the Western Hockey League, Sudbury Wolves in the Eastern Hockey League, and the Glace Bay Miners in the Cape Breton Senior League. This stint was not unusual during the days of the 6-team NHL. Had the NHL had the number of teams it now has, all of these men in these semi-pro teams would then have been NHL players. Certainly all-star defenders like Leo Amadeo certainly would have been. In 1955, his Quebec Junior franchise was sold to the Montreal Canadiens, just when they were in the midst of their 5-year Stanley Cup string. The move probably cost Amadeo his NHL career. To put that takeover in perspective, Leo did get his NHL tryout with the Canadiens, but in order to make the team, he had to beat out Tom Johnson, Dollar Saint Laurent, Al Langlois, Bob Turner, Jean-Guy Talbot, or 7-time Norris Trophy winner Doug Harvey. He and Elizabeth were married in 1960. Leo Amadeo was an enigma. Few men came bigger. He stood 6'2", was a boiled down 235 pounds. He had hands like shovels, and no one came tougher. But despite his heavy hitting style, he was always popular and well liked by fans, teammates, and opponents alike. Big and strong as he was, his teammates swear he could dance like Fred Astaire. Porky McMullen played both with him and against him. With him was way better, said Porky. Because Leo was the strongest guy anybody ever saw on the ice. When you add his inherent Muhammad Ali-like quickness to his size and strength, he made for a formidable opponent. Leo also had a penchant for landing the bone-crushing hit, which frequently resulted on the hittee spending a long period on the bench. During a game, he was a bull, said McMullen, but once the game was over, he really was a pussycat. He never had a mean bone in the rink. Some Haligonian was riding Amadeo all night. Leo ignored him until a guy called him a dago. Carrying the heckler, the boys thought there was going to be hell to pay. The Mountie said, "Mr. Amadeo, would you like to lay charges on this guy?" Leo entertained his teammates on the ice and was also the storyteller back in the hotel room. At the end of the 1960 season, he signed on as player coach of the Rangers, a task he undertook for 2 years. The Rangers included the likes of Darryl McMillan, Nelson Wilson, Ralph Cameron, Bill Billick, Leo Fahey, Jim McNeil, Jackie Pellrine, Dave McLeod, Hugh and Win Matheson, Art McIntyre, and Phil Bubar. In his first season as player-coach, Leo was considered the best defenseman in the Maritimes. He also collected 66 points. In the second season, Mels Tremblay, Yves Sarrazin, Bob Service, Jules Gagne, and Amby LeBlanc were added to the roster. When the new Glasgow Rangers beat out the Miners and won the Maritime title in 1965, Leo was long gone. Their coach, former NHL star Fleming McKell, picked up 6 players for an Eastern Canadian Allen Cup Series in Sherbrooke, Quebec. One of the 6 was semi-retired Leo Amadio. Hugh Townsend went to the series, and though the Rangers didn't win, he remembers Amadio as the outstanding defenseman. He ended his player hockey career where he began in Glace Bay with the senior miners. As a coach, Leo modeled himself after the late Fred Shiro, who guided Philadelphia to 2 Stanley Cups. The part of Shiro's coaching which endeared him to Amadio was that he always had time to listen. He went on from New Glasgow to coach the Glace Bay Sydney Metro Bees, to the 1971-72 Cape Breton, Nova Scotia Maritime and Eastern Canadian Junior titles. The fact that the Bees went through the playoffs without a loss would normally be totally attributed to the talent of the players. But in this instance, Leo took only the reins at mid-season, at a time when the Bees were in 4th place in their league. Goaltender Greg Lynch called Amadio the Newt Rockney of hockey. As a dressing room motivator, I've never played under any coach in any sport that could touch him, said Hugh Lynch, Greg's brother. He had a knack for getting a big contribution out of everybody on the team. Members of that team included recently retired NHLer Doug Solomon, who will be inducted later tonight, team captain Stan McDonald and Dave McLean, Sport Nova Scotia Executive Director. Hockey, said Leo, introduced me to a lot of great people, allowed me to travel first class from one end of the country to the other. On local trips, he always told the driver, "Get me home, I got a naked teacher waiting for me in Donkin." Rookies thought he had a mistress. The veterans knew he was always referring to his wife, Elizabeth. When Leo died at 56 of a heart attack on April 17, 1991, one of his ex-players had the following to say: "He was much more than a coach. We all stayed in touch with him long after we finished playing for him. We all miss him. He could, of course, have been speaking for all of those players." Leo Amadio is remembered as someone who always had a story and a smile. His expressions will always be remembered. Shelley McNeil was putting in a lot of effort one night for the Bees without much to show for it. Leo explained his behavior to McNeil very succinctly. "Shelley," he said, "you're running around out there like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs." When a zealous Truro reporter asked him what he had to say about the fact that the Bees had just beaten the Truro Bearcats for the provincial title, even though Truro had outshot them 52-34, he responded that the score this hall the greatest compliment a Nova Scotian could receive. A star in junior, senior, semi-pro leagues in Canada and the United States, a hockey pioneer, remembered fondly by all of his fellow Blue Nosers as a man who was just plain fun to be around. Donkin's answer to Newt Rockney, Mr. Leo Amadio.
Packy McFarland to please come forward and make the presentation. Walk you to center stage, my dear. Liv, I know that this is a very special night for you, and for very many reasons, but what Leo felt about the Hall of Fame and his feeling toward it and what he believed it meant.
Well, he thought it was such an honor to be inducted here for any of. Oh, it's a hard thing.
And he becomes the second member of his family to be inducted into the Hall. Younger brother Dave, who was inducted earlier and is also deceased. But I want to recognize the elder member of the family who is here tonight to celebrate Leo's elevation to the Hall of Fame. And he's the guy who started it all and probably provided the inspiration. Neil Amadio, where are you, Neil? You never minded being a hockey wife?
Never, no. No, I enjoyed it very much. I stayed home. Leo always said I was the wind beneath his wings. He was the one with all the glory. I was the one that stayed home and looked after our 3 beautiful daughters.
And he did such a beautiful job of that, and he was so proud of you and so proud of them. He was a great player, but I think he really enjoyed the coaching role probably more than anything.
I think so. When he coached the junior boys, it was just as each and every one belonged to him. And I think they loved him too. I was so proud when they interviewed Dougie Solomon. And they asked Dougie how it felt to be going in with his old coach. And the first thing he said was, "I love him." I thought that was so nice. And then he said he taught him some hockey skills, but he also taught him how to be a man. And I think that was Leo.
Leo showed the way. He showed them how to be great citizens as well as hockey players, and how to live and how to grow up and how to be good people.
And I just wish you were here today for his grandchildren.
So do we. You know, we're going to be talking to Dougie just a little bit later on, so I'm sure he's going to talk about Leo. Liv, it's a pleasure. Congratulations.